Hello, everyone. Welcome to Healing Arts Talks. I'm Fola Afolayan, and today I have a very special guest. I'm going to be talking with Stephanie Najjar, who is a life coach and also a human design reader. And she is going to be reading my chart live. And I'm super excited to get into this and to get a new perspective. So I'm going to invite Stephanie on to the live now. Hello. Hi,
Hey,
Stephanie.
Fola. Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can
Sound
hear
is
you.
okay?
Yes.
Yay.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can see you. Hey, Christia. Good to see you.
Hi, Tricia. Thank you so much for coming
Oh,
on. Hey, Jessica. I see you.
hi. Of course. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. Thanks for organizing these wonderful talks every week. It's amazing.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun just to connect with people and to talk with
hmm
people and get different perspectives. So I've really been enjoying it.
I love it.
Awesome. So before we get started, I know you're going to read my human design chart, which I'm super excited about to get into. But before we get started with that, I just wanted to hear more about your story of how you got started as a human design reader and life coach.
Okay, yeah, sure. I love it. I was in grad school. I was doing a PhD for quite a long time. I was in a PhD program for 6 years, and I started quite young. Like I started at 23, and
Mhm.
um, grad school was kind of like a safety net for me. I just didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I felt a lot of pressure from my parents to like figure it out. Hi, Sarah. I'm telling my origin story about how I got into grad school, and it was definitely like a comfort zone for me. I love to study. I love to learn.
Mm.
And I say this on my website as well. Like I came in like super interested and curious about learning about power. I was just like,
Mm.
hold on, like we need to understand how the world is working. Like what's decolonization? What's power dynamics? Where is that coming from? What is that? And I definitely studied that. Like I studied capitalism, I did queer theory, I did decolonization. I had a lot of fun in grad school, but I was noticing that as I was studying all these things, my personal well-being was and my personal sense of self-worth was slowly getting eroded.
Mm.
So I was like, this is so weird because I'm like studying these things, I'm studying the world, I'm understanding the world. I was doing a doctorate in political theory, so it was like
Okay.
very, very intellectual, very philosophical. And I was like, why am I slowly withering away? Like, I
Mm.
came in like feeling super strong and super empowered and super badass of like, I'm going to study these things. And 6 years in, I was starting to feel like really like not recognizing myself and like not speaking up in the seminars and not being so sure of myself and constantly seeking out validation. Anyway, this is just like a really long story to say that at some point, that's why I became more interested in like astrology, spirituality,
Mhm.
divination, because it kind of helped start to restore a sense of self. And it like these systems really helped empower me and make me realize that I'm so much more than this like very performance centered, very masculinist, very white space.
Mm.
So and then that's how kind of I discovered human design. It was in that context of me being more and more interested in systems of knowledge that invite a sense of stillness, a sense of self-awareness, a journey, a healing journey, the bodies of knowledge that are not entirely rational and structured in this way, but yet they have so much wisdom. Like astrology is a system that's so old. So divination is ancient. Like so,
Mhm.
every culture has a form of divination, if not more than one. So anyway, I discovered human design because I was having trouble making decisions. I was like, why
Mhm.
am I struggling so much? Like, I don't even know. I feel like I have to run everything by everybody. Like, what's wrong with me? I'm like so fragile right now. And a friend around me said, oh, you might want to look into human design. It's actually really helpful. It gives you a better sense of like where your decision making, like how it operates within you, because we all make decisions differently. And so decision making was actually the entry point for me. I was like, oh, okay, like let me look into the system. And I looked into it, and the first message that really struck me was that was the idea that we have embodied guidance within us, and that especially coming from a space that was so heady, so cerebral, and especially because we live in a society and a culture that values that kind of thinking, like thinking is in the brain, thinking is in the head. Decision making should be located here rationally. So I was so drawn to this idea that actually we can make decisions in our body, that we have this intuition within us that can also guide us. But more so than intuition, like actually when I look at charts, there's so many different places, so many different places from which we can make decisions. So it can be intuition, it can also be that sense of excitement that's coming from the sacral center. The sacral center speaks the language of excitement, and it communicates with that like sense of like, I'm feeling lit up, I'm feeling excited. You, as a generator, I was looking at your chart, you have that sacral authority. So it's for you, like the primary language of guidance that you're getting is that sense of excitement, of that, either you're excited and you undertake a project, or the excitement is not there and you feel like, okay, I'm not going to do it. Like, it's just so interesting that it's located in your gut versus located in your head, There's also the heart. The heart is a beautiful guide. Depends on the chart. So some people have the heart defined, and so therefore like they're driven by their heart. You specifically also have your spleen, and the spleen is like the seat of intuition. So you're also guided by your intuition, and the intuition speaks it's a softer voice than the gut. The gut is very like loud, and it's very like embodied, and it's a bodily reaction. It's like either you're excited and you're lit and you're turned on, or you feel this like, I don't know, like different people feel it as like a sinking feeling, or as like the sense of like dread, or even like repulsion, or like physical like rejection of something. So the spleen is a softer voice. It's like a whisper, and it's more like in the moment. It's like, don't do that, or like, turn away, or like turn left, don't turn right. Like you don't even really know where it's coming from, but it's very subtle, and it's in the moment. It's like a spontaneous communication. Yeah, it can almost feel like you're making an impulsive decision, but you're actually making an intuitive decision. So I was just like so drawn to this variety of language around decision making that can be embodied as opposed to in the mind. And I love this idea that the mind is not actually meant to be a source of decision making. It's just meant to be a processing center. It's like a data. You receive data, you filter it, you process it, and then you just let it kind of like trickle down and make the decision from the place of the body. Only 2% of people, they're projectors, but specifically mental projectors, are the ones who make decisions from the place of logic. Everyone else has like other forms of decision making. So for you have the sacral center. The sacral center is like the big overarching like decision making force, but then you also have other forms of guidance. That like intuition is one, and you also have another one that's like the sense of it's like it's the G center, and it's like your sense of direction in life, like that's also guiding you. So anyway, that's just to say how I got into it was because I was in a place in my life where I needed help and I needed guidance, and I was very, very like, it really resonated with me, this idea that I can make decisions from a place of trusting myself and trusting my intuition, as opposed to making decisions from a place of logic all the time, because logic's not always our friend. Sometimes we logic our way out of something that's actually aligned for us.
That's so true. That's so true. I'm just thinking, laughing, just thinking of like, being heady and cerebral, and how like making those decisions from that place. Not always the best.
Well, actually, your center specifically, like you have an open crown and an open third eye. So those are the centers that are in the head, that are the logical seat centers. So just to like backtrack a little bit, like what human design is. I feel like I'm just like diving into. Okay. So backtracking into what human design is, it's a combination of different divination systems. It is, I do have to say, it is a new age tool. So I have some issues with new age in general.
Yeah.
Versus, a tool that's like ancestral, like astrology or tarot. Human design is new.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It is very real, right? And it's going to be helpful for you to know, like, okay, where is my where's my guidance coming from, and how does it communicate to me? And so once you understand that, you can also like start realizing like, okay, this is where my logic is coming in and it's interfering with my gut, for instance, or it's interfering with my heart, or it's interfering. Yeah. So HD is new age, and I was saying like, we can problematize it later if you guys are interested in problematizing it, but it is a combination of ancient systems. So it combines astrology, chakras, and the ancient Chinese divination system of I Ching. So when I talk about gates, because the I Ching has 64 hexagrams, and it's basically a book of numbers. And so depending on, I don't really understand how the I Ching works, but in human design, it's been transposed. And so when you look at your chart, you have these numbers in your chart. Some of them might be activated. And so those activations are inspired from the I Ching, and they indicate like what kind of gifts you've been given, what kind of superpowers you've been blessed with. And it's pretty cool. And astrology as well feeds into your chart. And I find it really interestingly and surprisingly accurate. Like HG is very accurate, and I don't think it's because of the new age part. I think it's because it's combining ancestral systems together. Right. And that's where the power is. It's like, okay, what if we put all these systems from different parts of the world together and create a system, or create this like superimposition, like a layer, a multi-layered system. So I find it very, very helpful as a tool of reframing and a tool of self-discovery, especially if you identify with me in the situation of like, you're so rooted or maybe like clouded by the situations that you're in, or maybe that your sense of self, your sense of self-worth, a sense of self-love may have been eroded by the whiteness, by the masculinity, by the heteropatriarchy, like this, the institutions that you circulate in, the people that you're around. Like if you're feeling that erosion, sometimes it can be really hard to uplift ourselves and step away from that paradigm.
Yeah.
So I find HD very helpful in like nurturing and offering a different lens and offering a different way of seeing yourself. So the chart experience, the chart reading experience is very uplifting and very nurturing. And that's how I use it. Like HD can get like super, super layered. Like some people use HD to even like understand how you digest things, how your brain functions. It can get like really, really detailed, and it's all quite accurate. But I like to focus, for me, in my practice, I focus on two elements that I find very resonant and very helpful. The first is energy, like understanding how your energy circulates within you. And also not assuming that we all operate on the same energetic wavelength.
Right.
I think that's also helpful to remember, because we live in a society that functions around norms. Everything is organized around norms. I'm just repeating myself. But so what happens with norms is that there's this expectation that we all show up the same.
Yeah.
And that's not the case, right? Like we deviate from norms all the time, and that's why problems start happening. Like if you're queer, the norm is that you're like hetero, so you've deviated in some way. Like society is shaped around norms of whiteness, norms of masculinity, So the same is for energy. Like in terms of energy, the norm is having energy, being productive, constantly outputting, being extroverted, helping others, people pleasing. Like these are all energetic norms. that are kind of implicit, like no one really talks about it, but you're expected to show up in that way. So therefore, like when you don't have energy, you're called lazy. When you don't want to please, you're called selfish. You know, like when you deviate from those energetic norms, your behavior is problematized or maybe even demonized in some way. So I found it very, very helpful that HD provides a vocabulary and a language to complicate this idea that we all need to show up energetically in the same way. Some people, so that's what we look at in the energy reading, is how we all have nuances in our energetic system. So you as a generator, for instance, have a lot of energy. And what's interesting with your energy is that it will unlock when you're excited about something. So if your gut is excited about the thing, you're going to have tons of energy. In fact, you have the most energy of all energy types. If anything, like capitalism is designed on the generator energy type, which is the idea of like showing up constantly and consistently and like working through the thing. And you can work like endlessly. But the thing is, a lot of generators, you have that raw power, and you technically could push yourself to do something you don't love and do it.
And have.
And have energy available, but it's just not going to be the same level of like energy and happiness and lightness as when you are doing something that you love. And generators, you're also designed to please others. Like it's part of your design. Like you really want to make others happy, you know? But the way that you do that is not by putting other people's needs above you. It's by doing what you love, because when you do what you love, you are so magnetic, you're so powerful. And that's where the term generator comes from. It comes from like you're generating energy that other energy types and other people can feed off of and get inspired, and like, you know, they can ride your wave of energy. So a common pattern for generators is to be maybe conditioned as people pleasers, because you have that part of yourself that wants to please others. But the reframe is that you can still please others, and you're gonna do that, but do it by doing something you love versus doing something you don't love, and then the energy is not there and you're dragging your feet and you're frustrated.
Yeah. I'm writing this down.
That's great. So basically this is kind of, you know, I think I gave a little of a zoomed out perspective on what HD does and how I use it specifically. I use it for like helping people understand their energy. Like for me, I'm a projector, and it was so liberating to understand that I'm a projector, because projectors have less energy because we don't have the sacral center defined. And as a result, like our energy ebbs and flows a lot more. It's not like constantly stable and always there. And I've always been told that I was lazy. And I've always internalized this thing that I'm lazy, but I actually just love resting and need resting. And so like the superpower of projectors is less in doing and more in guiding and leaning back, observing, and being a witness to society. Not that, you know, other energy types can't do that.
Right.
But it's just especially important for projectors not to try to live like generators, because we're gonna burn out. Like projectors are gonna have burnout like real fast if they try to act and operate on that expectation that the sacral center is constantly defined. So it's just like, it just provides like this variety of language. Hi, Natasha. It's providing this this like very complex and like nuanced vocabulary that I think empowers people and helps people feel seen, that like you don't have to show up in this very specific way that is prescribed by our capitalist society,
right,
in this, you know, and understand like where your energy is getting drained, where your energy is particularly open, where it's, you know, maybe where it's susceptible to getting influenced or potentially even wounded or burnt out. Yeah. And then once that's kind of like the level one of what I do in my work. And then I also look at, once we're ready to dive deeper, that's where the I Ching comes in, and I start looking at the gates, and I start looking at like the purpose of the story of what the chart is telling me. I really feel like there's a story behind it. And I look at how the planets are transiting and the gates and how they're activated. Hi, Sunena, it's good to see you. So that's yeah, like that, and that's where I think about like cosmic purpose. I think there's this idea that we all came here with a purpose.
Yeah.
That when we reincarnated and we came back, we have a purpose. And it's so interesting because this purpose has nothing to do with capitalism or money or a job.
Right.
It can be it could be anything. And it's interesting because when you think about yourself like holistically and you like look back to your past, I think there's a constant like narrative thread that you can or pick out, or multiple threads that you can pick out. So for me, like my sun gate is the idea that like I collect stories and that I'm very interested in stories and just being this like kind of collective memory for people around me. And I now that I look at my chart, I'm like, that makes so much sense. And then once I look at my past self and my younger self, I'm like, holy shit, I've been collecting stories since I was a little kid. Yeah, so it might not have anything to do with, it's kind of like a historian energy. And it might not have anything to do with what I do or how I do it, but it is definitely this like, I constantly come back to it. So it'll be interesting to think about, like for you, when I look at your sun gate, like your, like obviously what you came here to do is, it's a bigger story, but the sun element, the sun planet, like it's just your life theme. It's how you express yourself and what you're here to do. And what's very interesting with yours is that it's located in your throat. And it's about explaining things. And I mean, it's kind of like what you're doing now. It's creating a space for education and explanation, but it's explanation after you've done extensive amounts of research on it. You know, you research, you collect the information, you process it, you synthesize it, and then you explain it. And there's this element of explanation that's more logical to it. Like you're interested in like breaking it down and educating people. And so that's what I see in your sun. Yeah, that idea of like logical explanation.
That makes sense. It makes me think of like, I'm a life path 7. So it like kind of brings me back to that teacher energy, or the balancing the logical and intuitive. That's what it's.
That's so interesting because your logical centers, what it means to have an open center is it's through your open centers that you receive influence and that you receive other people's energy, and you're also able to tune into other people's energy. So your logic centers are open, which means that you're very capacious in those areas. Like you're able to hold multitudes in the way that you think, in the way that you process, and in your opinions and in your thoughts. Like there's this curiosity that you have in hearing different opinions and making space for them in your head, and then allowing that to kind of sit and simmer and manifest in some kind of opinion that you have. But your opinions are also shifting, your thoughts are also shifting, because you're constantly, making more space in your mind for more influence and more conversations, more dialogue. I just think it's just like a brewing pot that's constantly producing new flavors. It's not set in one way.
Yeah.
So that's a beautiful gift because, defined centers are more set and they're more like you outputting. Open centers are more where you're receiving. But I think there's a lot of beauty in the reception, because that's where you learn. That's where you feel fascination. That's where you're drawn to the openness of the other, So it's very important to have a mix of defined and open, unless you're a reflector, in which case it's completely open. And that's also another power, another superpower in and of itself. So I can see that for you, the logic centers is like you're picking up, you have this like open antenna. Your crown is this antenna, and you're able to tune into enthusiasm. Like if you're talking to someone who's very enthusiastic about a project, like maybe you'll be like, oh my God, I'm enthusiastic too. Like I want to research this too. Like maybe I should also do this. Like it's just this open antenna that, and you're tuning into their enthusiasm, and for a moment there you think it's yours.
Yeah.
Because that's how deep the tuning in can be. Yeah, it's kind of like your solar plexus is also open, and solar plexus is where your emotions are. It governs emotions. And so for you, your solar plexus being open means that you're really powerfully able to tune into other people's feelings. Like you're extraordinarily empathic. And at some point, some moments, you might feel like, oh, this is my feeling.
Yeah.
But it likely is you tuning into someone else's feeling and then amplifying it, magnetizing it. Magnifying it. So that's the power of openness. It's like you're magnifying, you're mirroring back to them, and at the same time, but it's also important to know, like, okay, I'm feeling that, I'm feeling anger because I'm picking up on your anger, but I'm dialing it times 1,000. So it's also important for you to like release that and be like, okay, this is not mine. And have a practice of releasing what isn't yours in your open centers.
Ooh. Yeah, I need that reminder, because sometimes like, does this belong to me, or does this sadness belong to me? This don't feel like mine. What is going on? So I need to start doing that and like, releasing that. Yeah.
It's so powerful. I also have a hi Sabrina.
Sabrina.
Yay. I also have an open solar plexus, and my partner has a defined solar plexus, and those who have a defined solar plexus, they have emotional waves. So they'll have highs and lows, and then they'll have neutral moments. And so sometimes they feel like I'm having an emotional wave. I'm like, I'm having a low, I'm having a high, like what the hell's going on? Like, and it's crazy because when I'm on my own, when there's no external influence, like no human around, like I'm so neutral, like I'm so calm. So it's interesting to know, like, okay, you might be around someone. No, yay! Feel free to ask questions.
Yes.
So I'm like weaving in, like talking about human design with Fola's chart. So we're talking about like elements that I'm seeing in her chart. I was talking about your sun gate 62, like the rational explanation, breaking down, but just make sure you will find that you're even more powerful as a speaker and an educator when you have all the information at hand. When you have it all collected.
Because I feel more grounded and like, okay, I can go in and talk about this because I've done the research and analysis and
and it's okay to feel that way. It's okay for you to take your time and be like, there's a part of the project or part of the puzzle that's missing. I'm not ready to talk about this yet until I have that puzzle figured out. And that's going to be very aligned for you to communicate. You also have like other activations in your throat. You have like a very, very powerful channel that's connecting your G center to your throat. And the G center, it's a chakra that's only in human design. It's not in the like Hindu chakra system. In the Hindu chakra system, there's 7 chakras. In human design, there's 9.
Okay.
So there's a couple of extra ones. So the G center governs your sense of self, and it governs your sense of self-love and sense of direction. And I always thought, how interesting that sense of self-love and direction are connected. Like path versus love. I was like, what is that? But it turns out it is really connected, because I'm currently pivoting and I have no idea what I'm, where my life is headed. And that's where the self-love really needs to show up for me, and that's where the self-love is so like shaky sometimes. Because I'm like, I feel like I need to have my life figured out in order to love myself, but it's actually the opposite. It's like, you want to love yourself, and that's going to carry you through life as you navigate it. And regardless of how you navigate life, Yeah. So for you having a defined G center, it means that deep down, like really, really down, you kind of already know where you're headed in life. Like maybe it hasn't, you're not like aware of it yet, but it's there. It's there. And sometimes the power of the G center is to talk something out loud in order to get to clarity. So it kind of works like a sounding board. By talking out loud, sometimes you don't even need to run something by someone, but you just need to talk it out loud in order to get to the answer of something. Has it ever happened to you that like as you talk, you find the answer to your own question, or you find clarity in a way that you didn't before? It's that power that you have with the defined G center, is that clarity that you get from talking.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so you have this like sounding board superpower, and it's also a form of guidance. So remember, you have the sacral, you have the spleen, and you also have the G center guiding you. So don't ever hesitate to speak out loud. Like having like a therapist or a coach or a trusted sounding board, like as a regular practice can, or even just like leaving yourself voice notes can be so good for you, because you will be able to unlock further depth and clarity instead of just like having it all sit in your head and not get expressed.
That makes a lot of sense. I just had a coaching session today, and she was saying, yeah, you just need to speak it. So it's funny that we were talking about this now. My coach was like, yeah, you just needed to speak it out loud from your subconscious and like let it.
Yeah, exactly. So the knowledge, the wisdom, the path is there. And versus the undefined G center, where the path truly is just meant to be lived out and experienced with like more of a flow and a meandering and an exploration, and like releasing any kind of attachment to like a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan or something like that. Like plans. Oh, Sabrina's asking you, are you a Gemini?
Oh, I'm a Cancer sun, but my moon is in Libra though.
Yeah, and in terms of HD, Fola is the generator with a sacral authority. Yeah, so the undefined G center is this like meandering. If I remember correctly, I think maybe Sabrina has an undefined G center. I'm not sure.
Yes, T. Yes, T.
I just want to include you. And so the defined G center, there's this like sounding board power, and there's also this sense of like consistency. Like you just show up the way that you show up consistently. You're kind of like the same person in every space that you navigate. There's this like grounded stability to you. You're just not going to be able to change who you are, even if you're like in a different space.
Yeah.
The undefined G center has a more chameleon-like ability, and because it's undefined, and remember we're saying undefined centers in general tune into something, tune into other people's energy. So the G center with the undefined, the person with an undefined G center basically is able to tune into the energy of a space or tune into the energy of a person and show up in a way that complements or that balances out whatever they're sensing intuitively. So that's kind of like the superpower of the undefined G center, is to walk into a space and bring a part of them that is needed and required to experience balance. So it's more chameleon-like, and it's less that kind of like consistency of like, I'm going to show up this way every time.
Right.
And undefined G center is like release that sense of attachment to a plan, and to wanting to live a plan in this very like regimented or structured way, even though society tells us that that's like how we should live, you know, have like a job and never quit and be in the same, you know, job forever and be linear, like be an architect for the rest of your life, or be an engineer for the rest of your life, or like be an academic, you know, like,
yeah,
that's not going to work. You're going to want to flow and allow yourself to flow, and everyone should flow. Like I'm flowing. I have a defined G center, but it's just that the defined G center is going to have that like that grounded quality. Hey, Christine. Yeah. So basically, yeah. Do you have more questions about HD?
I kind of do, but we are a little bit over time, so I want to respect and honor your time as well.
Oh, I'm fine. I'm fine. I can stick around.
I'm trying to think of any other questions that I have. Like I'm like processing all of this. This is such great information. I think I'm good for now. Yeah. I don't know if anyone else might have any questions or.
Yeah, if you have any questions, I basically gave a very zoomed out like understanding of what HD is. Definitely not comprehensive.
Yeah, it's so you were saying
there's a lot more.
Yeah.
So layered. And for instance, we didn't really go into your like gates, your channels. That's more detail. And so for like once you start looking at the channels, for instance, I'll be able to look at like, okay, how does your throat connect to your G center? In what way do they connect with each other? Oh yeah, of course. So I use the website mybodygraph.com. I really like it because it's very clear. So if you go to mybodygraph.com, you input your birthday. You also should know your time of birth. The more exact it is, the better, the more accurate your result will be. And once you pull it up, it might look a little complicated because like you're gonna see a lot of energy centers. Some of them are gonna be colored, some of them are not. You're gonna see numbers that are bolded. Some are going to be connected to each other and create a channel. You're going to see arrows and planets and all that stuff. But the first thing I'd recommend you look at is your energy type. So on the side of your chart, once you pull it up, you can even do it now if you want. Once you pull it up, you'll see there's 5 energy types that are possible. And energy type is basically like the foundation. It's the most important because that's how you, first of all, like understand like what's your energy, like how does it work, what's the source, where is the energy coming from for you, like where is the principal source of energetic fuel, and how does it manifest, how does it work, how do you interact with other people energetically, like that's what your energy type is going to tell you. So there's generator, there's manifesting generator, there's manifester, projector, and reflector. And each one of these energy types has a superpower, has a gift. And then you can start diving deeper into, okay, like I have a defined root. What does that mean? I have a defined heart. What does that mean? I have an open throat. What does that mean? You know, like that's kind of like you're going deeper into the chart. And then you can also look at the numbers that are being bolded. But you know, like I know it can be a lot of information at once. So just focus on energy type and see if that's resonating with you and see how that's sitting with you. And if you're interested, you can always go to my page. I have videos, lives that I did that really dive into quite a lot of detail for the energy types. So once you know your energy type, you can go to my page and be like, okay, now I know I'm a manifesting generator. I'm just going to click on this video and listen and see how that information sits with you. And remember, I think the other thing I want to emphasize, because I think that's where like the danger is a little bit with new age things, is your chart, whatever tool you use is not. Oh, manifester.
Okay. Yes, manifester.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So go check out the manifester video. Like manifester. Cool. Manifester is like, okay, just to like real quick say, manifestors, you're here, you have like a direct line to the universe. Like you're gonna feel these like urges that all of a sudden you're gonna want to pick up and like do something and embark on a project and like rally people around you and like get everybody to do it with you. And that's not coincidence. That's part of your design. Like you're going to receive these like urges, this pull, this hit to like do something, and you're naturally a leader, and so people are going to rally around you and want to help you bring your vision to life. The way that like I think of manifestors as like the sprout that sprouts out of the soil. Like, and that actually takes a lot of energy and a lot of leadership to kind of birth something or bring it to life, come up with a vision. So for that's your superpower, is to initiate, to be the leader, to have the vision. And then after this period of like expansion and rallying and leading, that's where you become more introspective, and that's where you're going to need a lot more rest. Like your life is not going to be constantly go, go, go. It's going to be more of an up and a down, in terms of like exertion. Like you're going to have moments of exerting and leading and taking up space and being big, and then other moments where like nothing's really going on in your life, like you're resting. So I hope that's kind of like a, very zoomed out, very schematic, like description of like the manifestor energy type. And so like, because society is so focused on this like steady stream of energy, like steady exertion, every day we show up the same, every day we exert the same, you're just going to be really, really big at times, and then other times just like need to like relax and wait for the inspiration to come again. Like you're going to have an inspiration again. And you also have a lot of openness, like by default as a manifestor, you're going to have a lot of energy centers that are open. And so those energy centers that are open need rest. You're so welcome.
You're welcome, Jessica. Think you for joining us.
Yeah, of course. So anyway, I think we dove in.
Yeah, like I've got so much tea now that I need to look into and think about.
That's such a manifestor question.
For when inspiration strikes at inconvenient times.
Okay. My thought is that it's inconvenient. Why? Maybe because there's like a structure in your life right now that is making the inspiration inconvenient. The inspiration itself is a gift from the universe. The inconvenient might be coming from a place of like, right now you're having a lot of structure and you're like, fuck, like, oh my God, that's so cool.
That's amazing.
Why would that be inconvenient? Like, it makes sense. Wait, but like you finished the shower and then you wrote it down, right? Yeah, like think about it like inconvenient, like let's reframe it. Is it like inconvenient because, okay, like shower, fine, like that's manageable. You can come out of the shower and like write it down. But like, for instance, being in a 9-to-5 job for a manifestor can be a little bit difficult because, okay, inspiration strikes, but you're like, fuck, I've got stuff to do. I have a job. I have, so this is also like, we have to be like, of course, we're going to be realistic. Like, we're not going to just, all of a sudden chuck everything and like not pay our bills and, wait for inspiration to, inspiration strikes. But you can like dip your toe in. Like if you're feeling this urge and it's coming up, dip your toe and see if you can, see how you can start to make that vision come to life. And it doesn't have to be 0 to 100 or all or nothing. Maybe find ways to start really giving legitimacy to the inspiration, as opposed to like logicking your way out of it, or dismissing the idea or suppressing the idea. Because what happens for manifestors when you don't act on the urge and you don't act on the inspiration is that you're going to experience anger. And anger is, so every energy type has a signature like kind of feeling that when you're out of alignment, you're going to feel it. And for manifestors, it's anger. For generators, it's frustration, it's irritation. And for projectors, it's bitterness. I feel bitter. Like bitter is like the narrative of my life. Like I don't feel angry as much as I feel bitter. So anger for you guys is going to indicate that like something's off, and that's because there's a part of you that's really brewing and waiting to really kind of defy any kind of framing or containment, and is trying to really like, so think about like, where can you find moments of freedom, moments of experimentation, moments of maybe giving your inspiration a space to breathe and to grow. And it can be something be something really small. It doesn't have to be like all of a sudden I'm moving and, you know, leaving and quitting, all that stuff. Like that might be something that comes later, you know, but it doesn't have to be. Start small. And it can even just start with, like, I think manifestors need to feel freedom, and you need to remember that you're free. And so find ways to experience freedom even in your current structure. Even if it's like popping out for like a little tea break at your work. Help your brain reframe and understand that these moments are moments where you are free, where you're reclaiming your schedule. So this is specifically for, like, if you feel like you're very contained in this like 9-to-5 structure, you know, that's kind of suppressing the inspiration, you know?
Wow, that's really helpful information of like how to, you know, work with the energy that you have, even though the circumstances might not be ideal yet.
Yeah.
How to shift that and really support yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I just want to say, like, our chart is not like, it's not a test that we're like failing at or something, you know what I mean? Or like,
right. That's why CBS breaks feel so nice. Yes.
Yes, like really, like remind yourself, I have agency, I have freedom, I'm just gonna go do it, you know? Yeah, your chart is supposed to help empower you and uplift you and help you reframe and help you understand yourself in a way that's just like, that feels like a big hug. It's not a test that you're like, oh my God, like I'm in a 9-to-5 job and I'm a manifestor. Does that mean I'm failing at life? Like, no, not at all. You know, there's no pressure. There's like, a lot of this is like theory. And then we're just like thinking of ways of how do we introduce some of these elements in our life. And, you know, if you start finding yourself like feeling very expanded by the system, then you can start experimenting with small things, you know, experimenting with, you know, for you as a generator, Fala, like you can experiment with noticing when you're getting that like gut awakening, like when is your gut speaking to you? How is it speaking to you? You know, because the gut is going to speak in different ways. Like some people, it's going to be very physical. Like other times it's going to be more like, hi, Kimmy, thanks for coming. So, you know, so just like you can experiment, like, okay, how is my gut talking to me? Because the stronger your relationship to your gut, the louder it will speak to you. The same with all these other forms of like intuitive guidance or embodied guidance. Like the same with the spleen. Like if you have a defined spleen and you're splenic, then try to cultivate a relationship with your spleen.
Love you too.
Oh, love you so much. Thanks for popping in. So, you know, like then you can start experimenting of like, okay, like I'm a manifestor, so I'm going to embrace the fact that right now I have an inspirational like hit, and I'm going to see like how I'm going to make it happen, as opposed to like demonize myself for having the inspiration in the first place.
Right.
Yeah.
Hi, Shabazi. I see you just joined.
Hello.
Yes.
So.
Yes, well, thank you so much. I don't want to like we're over. I don't want to take too much more of your time, but I wanted you to give you an opportunity to let people know how they can get in contact with you and what you're offering at this time.
Yeah, of course. I offer human design readings, and I offer two kinds. And I usually like to start with the energy reading because, well, it really depends on what you're interested in. I do energy readings, and then I also do the cosmic purpose reading. They're both human design. So I use human design in the energy reading to kind of help you look at what energy centers you have are open, which ones are defined, which ones are open, how they communicate with each other. Open centers tend to be areas, as I was saying earlier, they're areas of curiosity and areas of openness, but as a result of that openness, they can also be areas of profound like shaping. You know, you can be shaped by either society or people or institutions or systems. This is where you can sometimes experience like feelings and behaviors, patterns that aren't yours and that need to be shed. So it's helpful it's helpful to get really specific about it and like, okay, my solar plexus is open, so like this is where I need to do the work. Or like my crown is open, you know. I wish I had known that my crown is open in grad school, because literally like every time I go to a conference or talk to somebody, I would get so influenced by their ideas. I'd want to go home and like change the topic of my dissertation. Like it was pure suffering all the time. And I never really had a full sense of like, what's mine? What's theirs? You know, what's mine and what's my advisor's, you know? So it's just helpful to know where the openness is, where the definition is, and how they communicate. So that's kind of what I do in the energy reading. And then in the cosmic purpose, that's where we really dive into the gate activations, the channels, and all these like deeper layers. And cosmic purpose is more about like, what's your purpose? What's the chart telling me? What's the story there? What are your strengths? What are the gifts that you've been given? What are some lessons that you're here to learn? And so this is where we look more into the gates and the astrology. And so cosmic purpose is really great if you're at a crossroads, or if you're pivoting, or if you're trying to just be like, who am I? You know, if you've been in a space for a really long time, and you're shaped so much by that space, and you're like, I want to know who I am, or I want to figure out or reflect on who I am outside of that lens, a cosmic purpose can be really helpful in kind of boosting your confidence, and also training your eye to see yourself differently and see yourself in a different and very supportive light. So they both achieve different things. One is more energy focused, so it's really great if you're feeling like tired, or if you're feeling blocked energetically. Whereas
hi,
the cosmic,
Andrew.
oh, hi. We're talking about like, we're kind of wrapping up right now and talking about the offers that, you know, how you could potentially work with me. So that's really what I do. And I also will be starting to offer life coaching. And I will definitely use human design in my coaching. I'll definitely also use my like devotion to social justice,
Yes.
and you know, my graduate experience, like understanding and studying the world, and like how systems like really shape who we are, and how we can start like decolonizing ourselves, and like I have found like theory in general very liberatory and very, very healing. So it's always helpful to use that in the way that we, you know, navigate the world and how we exist and inhabit the world. But that's coming soon. The coaching is coming soon, and I'll be starting a coaching certification at the same time. So that's kind of like where I'm headed in life.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
Yes. Your work is so powerful and transformative, and I'm just looking forward to seeing you expand and grow, and just learning about your practice alone tonight. Just tonight alone has been really rewarding. So thank you so much.
Oh, thanks, Fola. Thanks for being the connector here. It's also in your chart, by the way, that you're like a connector, that you like grow and like cultivate the relationships with the people that you know, because a lot of opportunities come through in that moment, in that way. You know, being a connector and being like a networker is like really part of your strength. And just like, it's so nice to be part of your community, and Greensboro is very lucky to have you. And yeah, like continue changing and moving the world and the collective, and being yourself. Like you're so awesome, and I'm so grateful to know you. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. Likewise. Thank you. And I look forward to continuing to connect with you as well. And it feels like less lonely out here.
I'm so grateful for our community. Really. Yeah. Follow the connector.
Yes, Andrew. Yes.
Like literally you're connecting right now. And we're like, thanks to you, like I'm connecting with your followers as well. It's like a very strong connection. Yeah. And like, feel free to come back to me, and we'll dive deeper into your chart.
I would love to. I definitely am going to. I'm like, now that I've got the surface tea, I'm like, I need to, I need some more, because this is like really helpful information, and it's just super affirming.
I also forgot to mention that I do free mini readings on Thursdays. So for anyone who wants to pop in and get like a little sample and, you know, experience, I just think it's so expansive, and I want to make sure expand. I don't know how to say it. Like my A's in English sound like like lamb and lamp. I don't know how to say, like, okay, so expansive, like you're expanding. So I want to make sure that's also like available and free. So if you want to pop in and submit your chart for a free mini reading, you could do that. I do it every Thursday, and so I'll be resuming, not for Thanksgiving, but I'll be resuming in December. So, so if you ever want to know, like, what's your energy type, or like, other things, I kind of intuitively read it for, a few minutes. So yeah, I just want to make sure I mentioned that.
That's awesome. Yes, awesome. Definitely check her out. Yes, go to her page. Oh, sorry, my thing paused. Check out her live readings there, and check out her in-depth readings as well.
Yay, yes. Thanks, Fola.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Stephanie, so much. Thank you,
much
everyone,
love.
for your energy. Yes, much love.
Bye. Thanks for your questions.
Yes, thank you for your wonderful questions. Bye.
Bye.